My roasted salmon tacos are so delicious, and they're fun, and they're really easy to make. And they start with a rub for the salmon. So, first thing I have is about a teaspoon of lime zest. I think lime and salmon go really well together. And the next is 2 teaspoons of chipotle chili powder. And then, of course, we need salt. 1½ teaspoons of salt. I actually love rubs because you know what? You put it right on the fish, goes right in the oven, and has so much flavor. Okay, next thing is the salmon. So I have 1 3/4 pounds of salmon. I actually have it in 1 piece. You can do it in steaks, but I think it stays moister in 1 piece. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna brush it with lime juice. And lime juice is not only gonna flavor it, but it's gonna make the rub stick to it. Just fresh lime juice. And then I'm just gonna sprinkle this right on. I think with a spoon, just like that. Evenly sprinkle it on. Just think how much flavor this is gonna add. Most tacos are made with fried fish, which is not only a mess, but I think this is kind of better for you. And the nice thing about roasting this is all you have to do is throw it in the oven, set a timer, and forget about it. This goes into a 425-degree oven for about 12 to 15 minutes until it's just barely cooked. And at the same time, I want to heat up the tortillas. I'm going to put them right in the oven with the salmon, same temperature. So the next thing I need for my salmon tacos is mashed avocados. That's 4 avocados. I need some lime juice, about 2 tablespoons, and this gives it flavor, but also keeps them from turning brown. I use sriracha. I like the flavor of it. You can use as much or as little as you like. You want a little heat, but not too much. A teaspoon of salt, about a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper, and I'm just gonna mash it up. It's a little like making guacamole, but it's not guacamole. Actually, don't over mash this. I like to be creamy and chunky both together. Okay, the last part is slaw. This is it, and it couldn't be simpler to make. I put 3/4 pound of shredded green cabbage into a bowl with half a seedless cucumber that I sliced thinly on a mandolin. Then poured over 1/4 cup of white wine vinegar, tossed in 3 tablespoons of minced fresh dill, sprinkled over some salt, pepper, and just mixed everything together. I think the salmon's ready. Absolutely perfect. How gorgeous does that look? And the tortillas are ready. Hot, which is exactly what they should be. Okay, I've got all the elements ready. I take a tortilla, nice warm one. Big dollop of mashed avocado on one side. Some flaked salmon, one sort of big piece of flaked salmon. Look how gorgeous that is. Put it right on top. Yum. Some of the slaw on the other side. And then I take a second one and do exactly the same thing. Okay, just a little bit of salt. Well, that's roasted salmon tacos. Not bad for a weeknight dinner. I actually love clam chowder, but sometimes I find it too bland or sort of too finely diced. I like when it's like a stew. It's got filled with clams and vegetables. So that's what I'm gonna do. So I'm gonna start with onions. Got a little bit of butter. So it's 8 tablespoons of butter. I think the base of any good soup is onions, just sauteed really slowly so that they get really caramelized, have lots of flavor. Okay, into the pot, that's about 2 cups of onions. And these are gonna saute for about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, I'm gonna get to work on the celery, carrots, and potatoes, all medium diced. Perfectly cooked onions, nice and translucent. Okay, I'm gonna put the rest of the vegetables in. I have 2 cups of medium diced celery, 2 cups of medium diced carrots, and 4 cups of potatoes. I'm just gonna stir them around. I'm gonna saute them for about 10 minutes so they start to cook. It smells great. Okay, now some fresh thyme. About 1½ teaspoons of fresh thyme. You can use dried herbs, but fresh herbs are so much better. And if you have any left over, you can just strip them off the stems and just freeze them and use them another time. Okay. 1 teaspoon of salt. ½ a teaspoon of pepper. It's really important to season things as you go along. Just stir it up, and we'll let this cook for about 10 minutes until the vegetables start to get tender. Just can't make clam chowder without clams and fresh clam juice. Well, you could probably use bottled clam juice, but it just won't be the same. I'm gonna use a quart of fresh clam juice. Just pour it right into the vegetables. Just gonna bring that to a boil. Okay, so the next thing I'm gonna do is make a roux, which is a little thickener. So it's 8 tablespoons of butter. Just gonna let that melt. ½ a cup of flour. And what it's gonna do is enrich and thicken the soup. Okay, the butter's melted. Just dump the flour in all at once, and then just whisk it. I'm gonna cook it for just about 2 or 3 minutes. Soup is actually great to make for parties because you always make it in advance, and the clam chowder actually tastes better after a day or 2. Okay. It's gonna take about a cup of the hot soup and just put it right into the roux. And then put it all back into the soup. And that just makes sure you don't get any lumps, ever. And then just stir it and it'll thicken the soup right away. This looks great. Okay, it's time for the clams. So what I'm doing here is I'm just removing the sort of black part of the clam so I get the good meaty part into the soup. The rest is a little chewier, it's not so flavorful. This is about 1½ pounds of clams. Probably serves about 6 to 8 people. I add the clams at the end because you don't want them to get tough. You don't want them to overcook at all. Okay, now into the pot of clam chowder. And I'm just gonna cook them for about 2 minutes, just enough to heat them up. Just gonna stir them in. Messy job. So I need about 2 cups of milk. Oh, this looks great. Seriously delicious East Hampton clam chowder. Let me just check for seasoning, always a good idea. That's perfect. You can really taste the fresh clams. Makes a difference. Chicken salad Veronique. It's like chicken salad, but elevated to party food. I thought Michael and Jim would really like it. So the first thing I did was I roasted chicken breasts, olive oil, salt and pepper for 35 minutes at 350 degrees, and it really makes the chicken so much moister than poaching it. Let it cool a little bit, take the skin off. So I'm just gonna cube this. I don't want it too small, but I want sort of bite-sized pieces are perfect. I'm gonna just right into the bowl. Chicken's still a little warm, which is a great way to make the salad, and then it really absorbs the flavor. Once it's cold, it's firmer and it doesn't absorb the flavor so much. So chicken salad Veronique, I think, comes from probably Sole Veronique, which is classically made with grapes. Chicken has so much more flavor when it's roasted than it does when it's poached. There's something about the water that just takes all the flavor out of it, and there's something about the olive oil, salt, and pepper that gives it flavor. So I think for tonight I'm gonna do 4 chicken breasts. Okay, now for the sauce. So first, ½ a cup of mayonnaise. I'm just gonna put it right into the bowl and toss it all together. Okay, now some green things. So fresh tarragon, which is a really sort of delicate herb. 1½ tablespoons of fresh tarragon leaves. This really is the place for fresh herbs. I'm just gonna chop it up. It smells wonderful. I think it's a really underused herb, tarragon. Okay, the next thing is celery, in the category of lots of green things. I'm gonna run my knife right down the middle. Leave it attached on the top. And just chop it up. Okay, right in. I think I'll do 2 stalks of celery. It's about 1 cup of celery. But the good news is you can do as much as you like. Okay, that should be just about 1 cup. And now comes the very neat part, green grapes. So I need about 1 cup of green grapes cut in half. I want to make sure you use seedless grapes. Nobody wants to be crunching their chicken salad. This salad will sit very well too, because all the flavors, the tarragon will really get into the chicken and the sweetness of the grapes. Okay, that's it for the grapes. A little salt and pepper, 1½ teaspoons of salt. I know it sounds odd to have salt and grapes together, but really brings out the flavor of them. 1 teaspoon of pepper. Toss it all together. And that's chicken salad Veronique. I'm gonna do a skillet roasted lemon chicken, which is kind of like roasted chicken, but better. So first thing I'm gonna do is make a marinade, kind of a rub for the chicken. It's gonna give it a lot of flavor. I need 2 teaspoons of fresh thyme leaves, 1 teaspoon of whole fennel seeds, a tablespoon of salt. Seems like a lot, but it's a whole chicken. A teaspoon of pepper. I'm just gonna grind it all up together. This is a mini food processor. It's really useful. Comes in all different sizes. Okay, that's perfect. So I'm just gonna take 1/3 cup of olive oil, and I'm gonna mix the herbs right into it. I'm just gonna put all the spices right in. And the salt and pepper, all the flavors. Just whisk it right in. Okay, that's the herbed oil. Next, I need a lemon. So 1 whole lemon. I usually cut off the ends just for appearance sake. Cut it in half, and then just do thick slices. One of the things that's unique about this chicken is that I cooked the whole lemon in with the chicken, and the lemon is edible, even the peel, because it cooks in the chicken juices, and it's so delicious. I'll show you how it works. Okay, that's the lemon, ready for the skillet. It's really heavy, but it really does a great job. So the first thing I'm gonna do is put the lemon in, just kind of in 1 layer, the whole lemon. I know it sounds wild, but it really works. And next, I have 1 yellow onion. I'm just gonna put it right on top. This is like the easiest chicken dish on the planet. And then I have 2 cloves of garlic that I thinly sliced. Just put them right on top. Okay, next the chicken. So what I have is a butterfly whole chicken. I asked the butcher to take the back out, and what he did was flatten it like this. So I'm gonna start with the skin side down, and I've got my herb and oil mixture. I'm just gonna brush half of the herb and oil mixture on the bottom of the chicken, on the underside of it. Just brush it right on, it's really easy. It's got so much flavor in the fennel and thyme, salt and pepper, it all gets into the chicken. And then I'm gonna turn it over, grab it by its little legs, turn it over like that. And then what I do is I take a paper towel and dry the top, because I want the skin to brown, and that'll help it brown. And the oil and the herbs will do the same thing. So I'm just gonna pour the rest of this on top, brush it, make sure it's completely covered. How good does this look already? I mean, it's such a good chicken because it cooks really high temperature, it's really fast, and then the lemon and the onions and the garlic and the juices from the chicken make the most delicious sauce. So good together. Like a meal all in one. Okay, into the oven, 450 degrees for 30 minutes. Ooh, that's a really hot oven. Then I'm gonna put a little wine in, cook it for another 15 minutes, and it's gonna be perfect. Okay, I think the chicken's cooked for half an hour. And now I just need to put some wine in, about a half a cup. And make sure I put it around the chicken, not over it, because I really want the skin to brown and it'll stop it from browning. Perfect. Okay, back into the oven for 15 minutes, and then I'm gonna squeeze a lemon on it, give it lots of flavor, and then let the whole thing rest for 15 minutes. It's gonna be fantastic. Oh, this smells amazing. Wow, so good. Okay, the last thing I wanna do is put some lemon on it. When the chicken's hot, it just really absorbs the lemon flavor. And then I'm just gonna let it rest for about 15 minutes. I'm just gonna cover it with aluminum foil loosely, just keep it warm. Very hot, be careful. Just gonna cut it up. I just do it in quarters, but you can do it any way you like. It's easy to cut because the backbone came out. The butcher took it out. Okay, right back in the sauce, and then I actually serve it right in the pan. Okay, that's done. So I'm gonna make cheddar buttermilk biscuits. The key to making good biscuits is really cold ingredients. Butter, eggs, milk. So I need 1.5 sticks of butter. It's incredibly important to have really cold ingredients when you're making biscuits because when the heat of the oven hits the biscuits, it hits the butter and the steam causes them to puff up so they're really light and flaky. Some people actually even also freeze the flour, but I think that's a little extreme. Okay, the dry ingredients. 2 cups of flour. Just want to lighten the flour with your cup. It's really not necessary to sift it. All-purpose flour. That's 1, 2. And because I want really light and flaky biscuits. Tablespoon of baking powder. Seems like a lot, but it's really worth it. 1.5 teaspoons of salt, so they have lots of flavor. Okay, next for the butter. It's unsalted butter. Put it in with the flour and just mix it until it's about the size of peas. Okay, now buttermilk and egg. Buttermilk's actually great. It keeps baking really moist. And it's low fat too. It's pretty hard to argue when you just put 12 tablespoons of butter in something, but what the heck. So I need 1/2 cup of buttermilk, 1 egg, and both of these are really cold, so it'll keep the butter cold. I'm just gonna whisk them together. Okay, can't make cheddar buttermilk biscuits without good cheddar. I actually love like Vermont cheddar or English cheddar, something really sharp, which you really know it's cheddar. So I need about 1 cup. I'm just going to grate it on a big box grater. You can do this in a food processor, but why get the food processor all dirty? I know Stephen loves cheddar biscuits, so I think it'll be perfect for him. So the goal is really light, flaky biscuits with lots of flavor. And the buttermilk is going to give it a little bit of a tangy flavor, and the cheddar's going to just give it so much flavor. Okay, that should be just about 1 cup of good cheddar. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix it with a little flour so it doesn't clump in the biscuits. Just a tablespoon or so. And then 1 cup of grated cheddar. And just mix it all together. Okay, so now I'm ready to put it all into the mixture. So you want the butter the size of peas in the flour, and it's perfect right now. So I'm just gonna put it in the wet ingredients. So cold buttermilk and cold egg. Just pour it in pretty quickly. And the cheddar mixed with a little bit of flour. Okay, that's it. It's really fast. I'm gonna clear the decks, roll it out. So, a little flour for the deck. Make sure they don't stick. And the dough, just dump it right out. I'm just gonna give it a quick knead, not so much that you melt the butter in the dough. Use lots of flour so that they don't stick to the deck. No point in making biscuits if you can't get them off the countertop. Okay, just keep flouring it, making sure it moves around on the deck. So I'm gonna do a rectangle, maybe about 10 inches by 5 inches, and I'll get 8 buttermilk biscuits out of it. So about 3/4 of an inch thick, somewhere between 1/2 and 3/4 of an inch thick. Do it in a nice rectangle like that. Okay, big knife. And sometimes you even flour the knife to make sure they don't stick. Cut it right down the middle. This is the part where I couldn't find the cutter, and I thought, well, I'm just gonna cut them up. And they came out really rough and very homemade looking. I love them, just like that. Okay, onto a sheet pan. My friend Steven's really busy, and he loves to entertain, and tomorrow I'm gonna show him how easy it is to give a breakfast party. So these are gonna go into the refrigerator. And then tomorrow, I'm gonna brush them with egg wash and sprinkle them with cheddar, and they're gonna be so good when they come out of the oven. going to show Stephen that even somebody as busy as he is can make a breakfast party. Are you busy making cheddar cheese?
I am so busy.
I made your favorite buttermilk cheddar biscuits. You're going to really like them. So what we're going to do is we're going to glaze them, put a little egg wash on.
Okay.
How's that?
Tell me about
An
an egg wash.
Egg wash is just an egg and a little bit of water or milk. Just whip it up. And what it does is it gives a nice brown glaze to the biscuits. You know, like your mother used to make? Did your mother used to make biscuits?
My mother did not make biscuits.
So I'm just going to brush these with the egg wash. And you're going to put cheddar cheese on the top.
You ready for a little sprinkling?
Go for it.
Okay. Can there be too much here?
Never too much cheddar. Can I help you?
Yeah.
Okay. Right on top. Perfect. Oh, that might be too much cheddar. And how about a sprinkling of salt? Just gives a really nice flavor to it and looks great when it's baked. Okay, into the oven, 425 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes until they're puffed and browned and just delicious. And then we're gonna make a breakfast cocktail.
A breakfast buzz. I love it.
Okay, this needs to be shaken for like 30 seconds.
I think
You're
I
on
can
while I
handle
get the
that.
biscuits out of the oven.
Okay. I've always wanted to do the bartender thing.
So I've got Greek lamb with tzatziki. I thought, Greek salad. This I can make in my sleep. So first the vinaigrette. Half a cup of olive oil. That should be about right. Quarter of a cup of red wine vinegar. I always like to use a good red wine vinegar. Just smell it. You'll know if it's good. Half a teaspoon of good Dijon mustard. 1 teaspoon of oregano. You know, usually I use fresh herbs, but in the case of oregano, I think it's really strong. So what I do is I take dried oregano and then just crush it between my hands, and it really releases the oils in it. It's one of the few herbs I think is actually too strong fresh. Oregano, teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and of course garlic. I've got 2 cloves of garlic, minced. Just whisk it all together. Okay, that's good. Next, the vegetables. First thing is 1 hothouse cucumber, then just cut the cucumber in big, thick slices. Next, 1 red pepper, large diced, and 1 yellow pepper, large diced. I think they taste so much better than green peppers. Okay, next, tomatoes. I'm just gonna cut each tomato in half. And just toss it right in. Okay, that's the tomatoes. Next is red onion. I actually use red onion because I think it's a little sweeter than yellow onion. Half a cup of Kalamata olives. They're Greek olives, and of course, a Greek salad demands Greek olives. They're already pitted. And next, the vinaigrette. Just toss it all together. Just pour on enough so that the whole salad is moistened. That's about the whole thing. That should be it. Just give it a big toss. All these gorgeous vegetables. So it's about 2 cups of feta. Doesn't get any more delicious. Lemon fusilli is a classic Barefoot Contessa recipe. Whenever we were running out of dinners in the store, I knew I could make huge quantities of it really fast. So it's fusilli, broccoli, and I'm gonna make a lemon cream sauce for it. Into the pot, boiling salted water. Just throw all the broccoli in. Just gonna cook it for about 3 minutes until it's crisp tender. And then I'm gonna shock it in ice water to stop the cooking. And then later, it's just gonna heat up right in the pasta. You cook the pasta, pound the fusilli, a little oil in the water, just so it doesn't stick. Salt. Okay, just stir it around, make sure they don't stick. I'm gonna cook this for about 10 to 12 minutes until the pasta's al dente, which has a little bite, but it's completely cooked. Actually, fusilli's great for this because the sauce really sticks. Okay, broccoli's done. Turn it off, put it in ice water. How fast is that? And while the pasta cooks, I'm gonna make the most delicious and really easy lemon cream sauce. It's gonna be so good. The lemon fusilli, I'm gonna make a really easy and very rich sauce. It's a lemon cream sauce. Tablespoon of olive oil. While that heats up, I'm just gonna chop some garlic. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna flavor the cream and then reduce it. And it's gonna be like a white sauce. So, tablespoon of chopped garlic. I'm gonna cook the garlic in the olive oil for about a minute. Right into the pan. The next thing I need is 2 cups of cream. I'm just gonna put the cream in and let it reduce over medium heat. I'm gonna flavor it with lots of lemon. The zest of 2 lemons. So the lemon and the cream and the lemon juice are all gonna cook together. And they're just gonna become an incredibly flavorful sauce. Okay, that's the zest of 2 lemons. Right into the cream. And then the juice of 2 lemons. 2 teaspoons of salt. Remember, this is the sauce on the pasta, so it has to be really strongly flavored. 1 teaspoon of pepper. Just gonna stir that around. So this is just gonna simmer for about 10 to 12 minutes until it's reduced by half. And by then the pasta should be done. Okay, the sauce looks like it's ready. See, it just starts to coat the spoon, just like a white sauce. It smells good, delicious, lemon and garlic. I'm gonna pour it right over the pasta and the broccoli. Okay, next is Parmesan cheese. Put on as much as you like, about a quarter, half a cup, something like that. Okay. Lots of cherry tomatoes. This is gorgeous. Just gonna toss it all together. So the sauce and the Parmesan get onto everything. That looks great. Okay, I have 2 more things. Just a few pieces of lemon tossed into it. I think it really just looks so much better. And the last thing is fresh arugula. I have some baby arugula that's just gorgeous. It's a big handful of arugula goes into it. Just toss it together, and the heat from the pasta is just gonna wilt the arugula just enough. Nice platter for it. Onto the platter. Lots of cherry tomatoes. And I would say sprinkling the Parmesan cheese. A few pieces of lemon, and lunch is served. Miguel, lunch is ready. How's the photograph coming?
Great, but that's even better.
Oh, no. That's just lunch. Well, you have, no, you can't photograph the
Come
food.
on.
Come sit.
What is it? Is that?
It's a lemon pasta with arugula and broccoli, and how's that?
Great.
With an orange napkin.
Perfect. What is it? Cream?
Might be a little cream. Crispy chicken thighs with mustard sauce. So I have 8 chicken thighs. I'm just gonna pat them dry. I'm gonna season them really well with salt and pepper. And then I'm gonna turn them over and do the same thing again. Now I've got a really big cast iron pan. I'm gonna put a few tablespoons of olive oil in. Skin side down, put them all in. They're gonna cook for 15 minutes, and don't touch them. I'm gonna turn them over and cook them for 15 minutes on the other side. I have 2 cups of yellow onions that I sliced. I'm gonna take the chicken out of the pan and then make the sauce. So I'm gonna put in a splash of white wine. I'm gonna add 8 ounces of creme fraiche, a tablespoon of Dijon mustard, a teaspoon of whole grain mustard. Then I'm gonna put in about a tablespoon of parsley and give that whole thing a big stir. Now I'm just gonna put the chicken back in, a little parsley on top, and that's it. Ooh, that's a big turkey. I don't understand why our mothers used to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to roast a turkey. I can't figure it out. I think they had this thing about bacteria. A 12-pound turkey should roast in about 2.5 hours. And it'll be moist and delicious. Oh, that's a beautiful bird. So the first thing I'm gonna do is take out the giblets, like the neck and the, well, ooh, it's cold, it's wet. And I'm gonna save it for stock later. And this looks beautiful. And then I'm gonna pat it dry. I have my friend Barbara's family coming for dinner, and it's gonna be really fun. And she has a new grandson, Timothy, who's just incredible. I think he's about 6 months old. So adorable. So I'm gonna make roast turkey, spinach gratin, which is really good, and smashed sweet potatoes. And for dessert, I'm gonna make my favorite croissant bread pudding. It's gonna be a really good meal. So I'm gonna put some salt in the middle and some freshly ground pepper. Just make sure it's really well seasoned. We're not gonna do stuffing, you know, it's enough with the stuffing. I'm gonna put all kinds of things in the cavity that are gonna give it lots of flavor. So I'm gonna stuff it with onion, forget peeling it, just chop the whole thing up and just put it right into the inside of the turkey. It's great. And then maybe big sprigs of thyme. And then we're gonna have lemon. I'm gonna just put big chunks of lemon in, just like that. It's gonna be so delicious. And then maybe the last thing is a big chunk of garlic. Put a big chunk of it right in the middle of the turkey. And then the last thing is I'm gonna just take these little wings and tuck them under, just so they're not flapping around in the pan and that they burn before the turkey's finished cooking. You're basically just doing that with the turkey. It doesn't mind. So I've got about 4 tablespoons of butter melted in here. Just brush it nicely on the outside of the bird. Okay, that's good. And then salt and pepper. Remember, it's a big bird, so salt it really well. And some pepper in the pan. So about 2.5 hours at 350 degrees, and we're gonna have a fabulous turkey with spinach gratin and smashed sweet potatoes. Oh, love it. Doesn't that look gorgeous? So the first thing I'm doing is taking the caps off 16 big mushrooms. Just take them off like that. Mushrooms really can absorb any flavor because they really don't have much flavor themselves. So I'm gonna put about 3 tablespoons of olive oil. And then 2.5 tablespoons of marsala. It's a wonderful sweet dessert wine. It's very often used in zabaione. You can use sherry if you don't have it. Okay, give it a big toss. And that's gonna really absorb the flavors into the mushrooms. Okay, in the meantime, I'm gonna make the stuffing. 2 tablespoons of olive oil. And 3/4 of a pound of Italian sausage. I'm using sweet Italian sausage, but you can certainly use hot if you like it hot, or combine the two. It's good and messy, but it makes delicious stuffing. I'm just gonna let this cook until it's nicely browned. I'm gonna chop some mushroom stems, the ones that I took off, and just put them right in. Right into the cooked sausage. And now lots of flavors. I've got 6 scallions all chopped up. You want this to be really spicy and delicious. 2 cloves of garlic minced. Just give that a quick saute. And now instead of putting bread in this stuffing, I'm gonna put panko in, which is dried Japanese bread flakes. And I just think they give a nice crispness to it, which is just what I'm looking for. So about 2/3 of a cup. That should be good. Give it a big stir. This is really smelling like good stuffing. Smell the sausage and the garlic and scallions, and some mascarpone to make it nice and creamy and hold it together. So I need about 5 ounces. I think this package is 8 3/4, so good part of this package. I always use good Italian mascarpone, it makes a difference. Okay, now off the heat, I'm gonna add 2 more things and some salt and pepper. First one is Parmesan cheese. And I'm just doing that off the heat because I don't want the Parmesan to stick to the pan. So about 1/3 of a cup of Parmesan cheese. That should be good. And some fresh parsley. About 2½ tablespoons. And then salt and pepper. Teaspoon of salt. You want this really well seasoned because remember the mushrooms don't have all that much flavor. It's kind of like polenta. It absorbs whatever flavor you give it. So that's the stuffing. Looks delicious. Now I'm going to put it in the mushrooms. Perfect pan. Great. And I think I'm just going to drizzle the extra olive oil and marsala wine over it. Okay, time to stuff the mushrooms. Just a regular teaspoon. Just stuff each one. And so when this bakes, it's going to be just tender and delicious and spicy with the sausage. Into the oven, 325 degrees. I can't wait till these come out. Banana Crunch muffins. One of the things I learned at Barefoot Contessa is that you could make the muffin mix the night before and then just scoop them and bake them the day of the party. It made it so much easier. You don't have to get up at 6 o'clock in the morning to make muffins. So that's 3 cups of flour. I need 2 cups of sugar. Okay, 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 1 teaspoon of baking soda. Most muffin batters pretty much start the same way. It's what you put in them that makes the difference. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Okay, those are the dry ingredients. Just sift them together. And this is why you sift things together, so you can make sure it's all smooth. Okay, dry ingredients into the mixer. Okay, now the wet ingredients. 2 eggs. 3/4 cup of milk. 2 teaspoons of vanilla. Love vanilla. And 1/2 pound of melted butter, cooled. If that butter were hot, we'd have scrambled eggs instead of muffins. Okay, into the dry ingredients, and we've got muffin batter. Don't overmix it, otherwise you have really tough muffins. Just one mix with a spatula. And then tomorrow, just before they go in the oven, I'm going to add coconut, chopped bananas, granola, all kinds of delicious things. Just make sure it's really well mixed. So the next thing I want to do is finish my banana crunch muffins. So this is the batter I made last night, but I'm going to add the bananas today because I don't want it to turn brown. Okay, so that's 2 bananas mashed. It's about 1 cup of bananas. Right into the batter. This is a great way to use bananas that are just about to go bad. And then for texture, I'm going to add 1 banana chopped. So when you bite into it, you get a little banana. So just slice it in half and slice it lengthwise. And just chop it. Okay, right into the batter. Okay, now, 1 cup of granola. Use any kind of granola, but use a good one. One cup of diced walnuts. 1 cup of coconut. It's got great texture in the muffins. Right in. Okay. Okay, mix it all together. Sort of fold it into the batter. These are great breakfast flavors, banana, granola. Take a little bit of oil, like a vegetable, anything you have around, and brush the tops of the muffin pans. When they bake and they puff up, it'll be really easy to get them out of the pan. And then I always use these cups because it also helps take them out. There's just no point in making muffins if you can't get them out of the pan. Okay, that's 12, that's to start. And this is the other trick, is an ice cream scoop. Just a regular ice cream scoop. You can buy it at the hardware store. Just a rounded scoop like that, right into the cup. You have professional muffins every time because they'll all be exactly the same size. This is going to make about 18 muffins. I've dried banana chips. I'm just going to crunch up a little bit on the top. But you can use coconut or the granola, whatever you have left over. One pan done. I'm going to bake them at 350 degrees for 25 to 30 minutes. First thing I want to make for Antonia and Donna is a sour cream coffee cake. It's a really moist sour cream cake with a streusel in the middle. I'm going to start with 1½ sticks of butter, 1½ cups of sugar, and I'm going to cream that together until it's light and fluffy. And then I'm going to start on the dry ingredients. Okay, so the first ingredient is cake flour. Cake flour I found is a little lighter and fluffier, so that's what I use. 2½ cups of cake flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, makes it nice and fluffy, 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda, 1/2 teaspoon of salt, sift that together. I'm going to add 3 eggs, some good vanilla, really important in this. 1½ teaspoons. And 1¼ cups of sour cream. This is what makes it really moist. 1 and got it all over the mixer too. Okay, now I'm going to turn it on low, lowest speed, and just slowly add all the dry ingredients, just with your hand. And beat it just until they're really mixed. Now for the streusel, the good part. So I'm going to just combine it in a bowl, 1/4 cup of light brown sugar, 1/2 cup of flour. This is the crumbly part of and the flavorful part. 1½ teaspoons of ground cinnamon, 1/4 teaspoon of salt, and 3 tablespoons of butter, which I'm going to just crumble into the streusel. Clean hands, best tools. Sour cream. I don't know how traditional walnuts are for a streusel cake, but I'm going to add some because I think it turns up the flavor. So about 3/4 cup of chopped walnuts. You can just buy them already chopped. But if you don't like walnuts, just leave them out. It's still delicious. And just crumble all of that together. Okay, now I'm going to put the cake together. But I've buttered and floured this. What I'm going to do is put half the batter in the bottom. I'm going to take 3/4 of the streusel and just spread it evenly on the top of the batter. So there's going to be streusel in the middle of this cake as well as on the top. I'm going to take the rest of the batter, put it on top. Just sort of place it on top, and then I'll smooth it out later. And then more streusel on top. And it's amazing how much this gets really moist and light. So into the oven, 350 degrees for 50 to 60 minutes, and we're going to have a really good cake. So my philosophy is too much is never enough. So I'm gonna add a maple drizzle to this to make it even better. And it's really easy. A half a cup of confectioner sugar. And 2 tablespoons of maple syrup. I really like good maple syrup. Not the stuff that says syrup-like or syrup-flavored, or it's really maple syrup. Okay, that's perfect. Even better. Just want it to drizzle down the side a little bit. I don't think there's any dish I've made more than Parmesan chicken. So for a mystery guest, I have no idea what they like. I'm gonna try something really safe. Everybody loves this. So the first thing I'm gonna do is make the crust for the chicken. I'm gonna do a cup of flour, teaspoon of pepper, and a teaspoon of salt. Just gonna mix that all together. So it's gonna be flour, egg, and breadcrumbs. I need 2 eggs. About a tablespoon of water. Just gonna beat this together. And then the breadcrumbs. I need a cup of breadcrumbs. I use seasoned breadcrumbs. You don't have to make your own. Make sure they're fresh, though, that they haven't been sitting in the pantry for a long time. And Parmesan cheese, which is why it's Parmesan chicken. So for the Parmesan, I'm just gonna use actually ground Parmesan. And for this, it has to be very finely ground so that it distributes itself really well on the crust. So I'm just gonna chop this up, put it in the food processor, and then just grind it up. How fast is that? I just need a half a cup right into the breadcrumbs. So I'm just gonna mix that together. Now for the chicken. And you pound it so it's tenderized and it's actually very even. So this is time for rolling pin. So just gonna pound it really thin. Okay, that's done. Time to cook the chicken. Tablespoon of butter, tablespoon of olive oil. And I'm gonna take each chicken breast. First dip it in the flour. Make sure it's completely coated. Shake it off. Dip it in the egg and water. And then dip it in the breadcrumbs and Parmesan cheese. Okay, right into the pan. I'm gonna cook it for about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. Okay, this is nice and brown on this side. I'm just gonna turn it over. Oh, does that look good? Okay, perfect. Browned on that side. And you can tell if the chicken bounces back, it's perfectly done. Onto the sheet pan. Okay, into the oven, very low oven, 200 degrees, and they'll just stay warm until we're ready for dinner. Well, that's a crowd I don't want to leave for too long, so I'm glad I did the Parmesan chicken in advance. So the first thing I'm going to do is make lemon vinaigrette. I need a quarter of a cup of fresh lemon juice. That's half a cup of olive oil. Half a teaspoon of salt, half a teaspoon of pepper, and just whisk it. Nicely washed lettuce. Glad I washed it in advance. Just pour the vinaigrette on. And that's gonna go in the chicken. So the hot chicken and the cold salad, it's just a great combination. All I have to do is plate up the chicken, cold salad on the top, shaving of Parmesan, and I'm back for the fun. Okay, so 2 tablespoons of freshly minced parsley. I need about a half a cup of grated Parmesan cheese. I think it's unusual in meatballs, but I think it gives it lots of flavor. One egg. All these ingredients are designed to either flavor it or hold it together. So I'm just going to beat it a little bit. Pour it on top. Now some seasoning. 1/4 teaspoon of nutmeg. 2 teaspoons of salt. 1/2 teaspoon of pepper. And here's the surprising part, warm water. 3/4 cup. I actually learned this trick from Rayo's, that famous Italian restaurant in New York. And it keeps the meatballs so moist you wouldn't believe it. Okay, clean hands, cook's best tool. And you want to do this really lightly. You don't want to sort of compact it. You want to fluff it up and still mix them together. Oh, this smells so good. So this is going to make about 16 really good-sized meatballs, which is perfect for my guests. So I've got 1/4 inch of oil. It's half olive oil and half vegetable oil. I'm just going to saute these and just keep turning them so they brown evenly on all sides. I'm doing them in 2 batches, so I don't want to overcrowd them so they brown nicely. So the second batch of meatballs are done. I'll just cook them 10 minutes until they're nice and browned, and then I'm going to finish cooking them in tomato sauce. Okay, I'm just going to pour off all the oil that I used for cooking the meatballs. So I'm going to use the same pan. It's got all that great flavor from the meatballs. A little bit of fresh olive oil. 1 cup of onions. It's 1 or 2 onions, depending on how big they are. And they're going to cook for 10 minutes until they're really tender and flavorful. And now I need some wine for the sauce. Okay, 1½ teaspoons of garlic. I do the garlic at the end because it burns really quickly. You can smell the garlic immediately. It's wonderful. Okay, 1/2 cup of red wine. Deglaze the pan. Get all those really crusty bits from the meatballs. It really flavors the sauce. And cleans the pan too. 128-ounce can of crushed tomatoes. Okay, that smells great. About 1 tablespoon of parsley. 1½ teaspoons of salt. 1½ teaspoons of pepper. Just going to cook that together for a minute. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is take the meatballs and just put them right back into the sauce, and they're going to cook for about 25 to 30 minutes. Okay, just put them all in. Yikes. Tomato sauce and meatballs. Oh. Big bunch of basil, right in the middle. These are the easiest potatoes in the world. I think I've made more garlic roasted potatoes than every other vegetable combined. I start with red potatoes, but you can really use any kind of thin-skinned potato. Maybe about 2 pounds. If they're big potatoes, I'll cut them in quarters. If they're small potatoes, I'll cut them in half. Okay, a little olive oil. Just drizzle it on. Coarse salt. I use kosher salt, but you can use sea salt or any kind of salt you have around. Lots of fresh pepper. Give it a little spice. Now the secret to my potatoes. Really good garlic. I was trying to find garlic that's very firm like this. It doesn't have a big sprout on it. You don't want to plant in your potatoes. You want a really good garlic. Peel 6 cloves of garlic. There's a lot of garlic in this meal, but when you cook garlic for a long time, it becomes really sweet. So it's not going to be too garlicky a meal. Now, the easiest way I find to chop garlic is just to leave the tip of the blade on the board and run the knife back and forth and really let the blade do the work. Okay, go Lots of garlic. Oh, it smells so good. I'm gonna use my hands to mix up the olive oil. Salt I've already put on it, the pepper. Okay, into the oven. 400 degrees, for about 30 minutes. Oh, these are the garlic roasted potatoes, and they are seriously garlic. They're all crisp on the outside and delicious inside. It's like the entire kitchen. Hi, sweetie.
Ooh, that looks great.
That look good.
That looks great.
What you
Can I grab this right now?
What you've been dreaming of all the way home?
You want some wine?
And I'd love some wine. That'd be fabulous. I'm making an old-fashioned classic, what I call company pot roast, with tomatoes and lots of red wine. So I have a 5-pound piece of really good quality chuck roast. If I did this with something like a fillet of beef, by the time it was done braising, it would be tough and dry. I want it to be moist and absolutely delicious. I'm going to pat it dry, helps in the searing, and then I'm going to season it. Tablespoon of salt. It sounds like a lot, but it's a big piece of meat. And just all over. Whenever I serve it, people go, oh, I love pot roast. And a half a tablespoon of pepper. Big handful of flour on a plate. And then just roll the pot roast in it. So this is going to help searing the outside of the pot roast, but what it's also going to do is it's going to thicken the sauce. And this is where the big pot comes in. This is a Dutch oven, and it's just the best pot you can use for pot roast. So I'm just going to heat up about 2 tablespoons of olive oil. Just enough to sear the meat all the way around. Just get it really nice and hot. What the searing is going to do is going to seal in the juices, but it's also going to make the sauce taste fantastic. Okay, in goes the beef. It's going to sear about 45 minutes on each side. In the meantime, I'm going to get the vegetables ready. I need 2 cups of carrots. And I think this pot roast is ready to be turned. I'm just going to turn it maybe a quarter of a turn till it gets browned all over. Oh, look how gorgeous that looks. Next, I'm going to work on the celery. I need 2 cups of celery. Nice big chunks. You can do it more finely if you like, but I like the sort of earthy, chunky flavor of the big chunks of carrots and celery. Next is the onions. I've got 2 big Spanish onions. You can use regular yellow onions, but these are so much easier. Just give them a big rough dice. Next are the leeks. Okay, I'm just gonna give them a big rough chop. And these leeks are gonna go in with the onions and carrots and celery. It's gonna flavor the sauce. Okay, I think the meat's all seared. I'm gonna take this big baby out, put it on a plate, and then start making the sauce. Whoa. And put a little bit more olive oil in, and then I'm gonna sear all the vegetables, get them nice and browned and caramelized. It's kind of like making soup. You always wanna start with the vegetables and get them nice and brown. I'm gonna cook them for about 10 minutes. Okay, while that cooks, I'm going to put some garlic in. And the garlic goes right in with the vegetables. With a tablespoon of salt. Just smells wonderful. Easy enough for every day and delicious for company. A bouquet garni can be really any kind of herbs, but I'm using thyme and rosemary from my garden. Sometimes what the French do is they like hang the string over the side of the pot, but we'll be able to fish it out. Right in. It's gonna flavor it, it's gonna be fantastic. Next, some red wine. I like to use Burgundy for this. About 2 cups right in the pan. And what this is gonna do is gonna flavor the sauce. 2 tablespoons of cognac. Gives it that nice hit. And this is smelling pretty good. Okay, next is 1 can of whole plum tomatoes. I actually choose the tomatoes that are in tomato puree, so it's even thicker. 1 cup of chicken stock. I use homemade chicken stock, if you can. It really does make a difference. Tomatoes and the wine, celery and carrots. Fantastic. It's gonna make such a good sauce. Now it's just time to put the beef in. Oh, this is some large pot roast. Just slide it right in, and that's what's gonna make it taste moist and delicious. All the gorgeous sauce. I'm just gonna bring it up to a simmer. and then it's going to go into the oven and it's going to cook for several hours until it's meltingly delicious. I'm going to make shrimp scampi baked. I'm going to assemble the whole dish in advance, put a crunchy crumb topping on the top, and then bake it in 10 minutes before I serve dinner. I have 2 pounds of really large shrimp. I mean, they're called jumbo, they're called extra large. Forget that. They're 12 to 15 count, which means they're 12 to 15 in a pound. And then what I'm going to do is devein them, which is run my knife right down along the back and take the little vein out that's right in there. Don't want that. You can actually buy them in the store like this, but I just thought it's so easy to do, I'll just do it myself. So the second thing I want to do is butterfly them. Just run your knife right along the back, and you want to open it up just sort of like a little book. And then when I put them in the dish, their little tails are going to stand up like that. And also they're very even. It's going to cook very quickly because it's half the thickness. Okay, that's it for the shrimp. Into a big bowl, I'm going to add some great flavors. Okay, now, really simple marinade. It gives them lots of flavor. White wine, 2 tablespoons of white wine, 3 tablespoons of olive oil, 2 teaspoons of salt, 1 teaspoon of pepper. Toss it all together. And next I'm going to make this incredible crispy topping with Japanese bread crumbs. So I need 1½ sticks of butter. And then lots and lots of garlic. 4 huge cloves of garlic. Just gonna chop them up. You want minced garlic, because nobody wants to take a big bite out of garlic. Okay, right in with the butter. The next thing is a shallot. And this is a very big shallot, so I'm using 1 big shallot, or if you have smaller ones too. Just a rough chop, dice it. Okay, that's 1 very big shallot. Now lots of fresh herbs. 3 tablespoons of Italian parsley. It's an Italian dish, you gotta make Italian parsley. Okay, just rough chop. Italian parsley really does have a little more flavor than the curly parsley. Okay, so that's about 3 tablespoons right in the bowl. Just to give it a little texture, 1 teaspoon of fresh rosemary. Just a pinch of it. You just want it very subtly in the background. So just a little pinch, like 1 teaspoon. That should be enough. Okay, now a little heat, 1/4 teaspoon of red pepper flakes, and lots of lemon. And be sure you zest it before you juice it, otherwise you can't zest it. Okay, so 1 teaspoon, lemon, parsley, garlic. I mean, how bad can it be? Okay, that should be about 1 teaspoon. Right into the bowl. 2 tablespoons of freshly squeezed lemon juice. Just add a little bit of liquid and catch the seeds. Next, an egg yolk, and that's going to bind it. Mash it together. And then I'm going to add panko, which is Japanese breadcrumbs. They're sort of very light and airy, but if you can't find them, you can always use breadcrumbs. But I find they're available in seafood shops, in specialty stores, but I actually find them in the grocery store now. Okay, 2/3 of a cup of Japanese breadcrumbs or bread flakes. So much flavor in this topping. Okay, time to arrange the shrimp in the dish. So I've got a gratin dish. It's about 14 inches long, and it's not very deep. It's like 1.5 inches, but you can really use any size. This is perfect for 2 pounds of shrimp. So I'm going to take the cut part of the shrimp and just put it right down flat in the dish with the tail curving up and in, concentric circles, all the way around the outside of this dish. And so now the shrimp are really, they're quite thin, and they'll cook really quickly. I don't mind taking a little time when I'm getting ready for a party. I just hate cooking when my friends are there, so I find this very relaxing. And the other thing is I never try out a new dish on my friends. I hardly even do it with Jeffrey. When I'm entertaining, I want to be really sure that the dish is exactly the flavor I want it to be, and that usually takes 1 or 2 tries. Okay, take what's left, olive oil and the white wine, salt and pepper, pour it over the top. And now I'm ready for the topping. This is the good stuff. And I'm just going to crumble it all over the top. So if I were going to make this in advance, I would make it to this point and then refrigerate it, and then bake it before my friends got there. But this is so delicious. I want you to see how fabulous it is when it comes out of the oven. Okay, into the oven, 425 degrees for about 10 minutes, and all it's going to need is a spritz of fresh lemon juice the minute it comes out of the oven. I'm making linguine with shrimp scampi. It's a great summer dish. I add oil to the pasta pot so that the pasta doesn't stick together, and salt for flavor. Okay, that's going to cook for 7 to 10 minutes according to the directions on the package.
So I'm making a centerpiece with hydrangeas. I use a knife because a scissor will seal the stem, and we want as much water in the flowers as possible.
Okay, that's 3 tablespoons of olive oil and about 3 tablespoons of butter. I do the olive oil because it has a high burning temperature, and the butter because it has lots of flavor. I know this looks like a lot, but it's the sauce for the entire dish. And about 1.5 tablespoons of garlic. With garlic, you really don't want to cook it too long, so just about a minute. Nothing worse than the flavor of burnt garlic. So 1 minute while I get everything else ready. So the first thing is shrimp. And what I buy is peeled and deveined shrimp from the fish store. If you can't buy it, you can always peel and devein it yourself. I'm going to add a pound of shrimp and just cook it for a very short time, like 3 to 5 minutes. And all that flavor of the garlic is going to get into the shrimp. So first thing I'm going to do is salt and pepper the shrimp. I want it to have lots of flavor because when you add the pasta, the sauce has to flavor the pasta also. So it's going to be really strongly flavored. Just turn the shrimp so they cook evenly on both sides. It smells so good, all that garlic and butter and oil. How bad can that be? Michael's so great with flowers. I can't wait to see what he's doing at the table.
That looks good. I hope Anna likes it.
So just drain the water from it, and then it's going to go right into that pan with the shrimp and the garlic and butter and oil. It's going to absorb all that great flavor. Okay, just like that. 2 spoons. Just toss it all together. This is actually a great way to make any pasta. Italians do it. Even when you're making pasta with tomato sauce, is you cook the pasta and the sauce together for the last few minutes, and it really absorbs the flavor. Okay, and then the last ingredients are lemon zest, lemon juice, I like a little bit of heat, so just a sprinkling of red pepper flakes. Okay, just toss that together, and then I have 2 more things to put in. Parsley. Okay, right on top. And then because I want you to know, you can't really see the lemon, but I want you to know it's lemon, what I do is a few thin slices of lemon. People aren't going to eat them, but they'll see that it's lemon. So I'm going to add a few slices of lemon to the whole thing before I finish its tossing. This is really a great summer lunch. I'm just going to roll out the dough. I'll cut it in 4ths. Now, if you don't even have time to do the dough, what you can do is get some frozen puff pastry and defrost it in the refrigerator and use that instead. It's light, it's wonderful, and it's really easy. So I'm just going to roll each one of these out into a roll, maybe about an 8-inch round. Flour everything, including yourself. Let me move this over a little bit. When you're rolling out dough to make a round, you want to keep turning it. Roll it from the center out to the edge. This is nice dough. You just want to keep it moving, make sure it never sticks to the board. You can roll it on wood, but if you have stone, it's even better. Right on the counter. Okay, now the secret to the dough sticking to the dish is just do a little bit of an egg wash that you're going to use on the top anyway, around the edge. It makes it a little wet. So just put the dough on top. This is obviously a little too big. And you just want to trim the dough so that it's about half an inch bigger than the bowl. Doesn't have to be perfect. Nice country, homey, rough edge is nice. Just like that. Okay, and then just stick it to the edge of the bowl. And it'll stick because of the egg wash that you put on it. Now just egg wash the top. So the dough puffs up and it's nicely browned. It's gonna be wonderful. So when these bake, the steam and the chicken pot pie filling will puff up the dough and it's gonna turn out gorgeous. And then I like to season the top with flaked sea salt so you see it, it's just wonderful. Flaked sea salt, want to have lots of flavor, cracked pepper. Okay, that one's done. And I'm gonna bake them for an hour at 375 and they're gonna be puffed and succulent. I thought I'd surprise Michael and Jim with a cake for their anniversary party. So it's 1 3/4 cup of flour. I'm gonna sift all the dry ingredients together. 2 cups of sugar. I'm gonna sift them right into the bowl, mixing bowl. And since it's chocolate cake with chocolate buttercream, it's got 3/4 cup of cocoa powder, dark chocolate cocoa powder. It smells so good, so chocolatey. Okay, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, 2 teaspoons of baking soda, it helps it rise. 1 teaspoon of salt. I'm just gonna sift all these together. So the method of this cake is to sift all the dry ingredients together in a cloud of chocolate. And then I'm gonna slowly mix the wet ingredients into it. Okay, that's the dry ingredients. I'm just gonna mix them on the mixer until they're combined. Okay, now for the wet ingredients. The first thing is a cup of buttermilk. I always shake it because it does settle. Make sure it's well mixed. So I'm gonna do it in a measuring cup. That'll be easier to pour into the cake batter. So I need 1 cup of buttermilk, half a cup of vegetable oil, 2 eggs. Just beat the eggs a little bit. Right into the wet ingredients. I use extra large eggs. 1 teaspoon of good vanilla, really important when you're doing chocolate. Okay, I'm just gonna combine these. And then with the mixer on low, I'm just gonna put it into the dry mixture. And then I have a secret ingredient. Or I should say Michael's grandmother had a secret ingredient. This recipe calls for a cup of hot brewed coffee. And I always think coffee is really important for chocolate. It makes it taste really chocolatey, and that's exactly what this does. Right into the mixture. I've got 2 8-inch cake pans. I lined them with parchment paper, butter and flour. The pressure's on. It has to be good because Michael knows exactly what it is. He actually served this cake to me once at dinner, and I just begged him for the recipe. I didn't have to beg very hard. I'll make sure they're pretty equal size. Okay, into the oven, 350 degrees for 35 to 40 minutes, and then we're gonna cover it with the easiest, most delicious buttercream you've ever seen. So I'll chop up 6 ounces of really good semi-sweet chocolate. I'm just gonna melt the chocolate in a bowl that I've set over simmering water. In the meantime, I'm going to start the rest of the buttercream. So I need 2 sticks of butter, half a pound, at room temperature. I'm just going to beat that on medium speed. Okay, the next thing I need is 1 extra large egg yolk and a teaspoon of good vanilla extract. Okay, I think the chocolate's going to be ready by now. Let's see. Take this off the heat and just let the chocolate cool while I turn the cakes out. Just add it to the butter and vanilla. So I've got 2 teaspoons of hot water. I'm just gonna put in a tablespoon of instant coffee powder, which is a very intense coffee. Just melt this together and pour it into the buttercream. And I'm just gonna whip it for a minute. Make sure it's really well blended. I'm gonna turn it on low and add all this gorgeous chocolate. The chocolate's actually cooled now a little bit. You don't want to pour hot chocolate into butter, otherwise the whole thing will melt. You can really smell the chocolate and the coffee together. A little hint of vanilla. And that's Michael's grandmother's chocolate buttercream. Icing a cake, just go over it very gently. Start from the top and work your way down the sides. Okay, so now I've got buttercream on all sides of the cake. I'm just gonna go up and down the sides. And good news about an old-fashioned cake is it's supposed to be a little messy. And then I'm just gonna smooth the top, just sort of big swirls.